Hello, and welcome to a special edition of DNET, the Disability Network. I'm Ming Wong. Although brain injuries can occur in many ways, the majority are caused by car accidents. With safer cars and better ambulance and paramedic services, many people who would have died previously are now being saved. Some of them sustained brain or head injuries. The resulting disabilities can be very obvious and severe, or a person may be left with a disability that can't be seen. On today's show, we'll take a look at how people are affected by this kind of hidden disability, a disability which is yet to be fully understood by the medical profession.
Go ahead, 2142. We have 2 VSA patients requesting BLS and an additional 2 units.
Something has to be done, because I know for a year I was told I had a head injury, but I didn't understand it. I just thought, I was told I had short-term memory loss. I thought that meant I was only going to lose my memory for a short term, and then one day I'd wake up and I'd be fine, not knowing that I could forget what I was doing and forget what somebody told me 5 minutes ago. It wasn't explained.
I mean, every day you wake up, you question yourself as to what's going on inside your own head. You wake up every morning, you look in the mirror, and you say, well, this is me today, but where's the guy that was before this accident? Mm-hmm. And that's the hardest part to accept, at least for me anyway.
I was hospitalized for 14 months because they didn't think anything was wrong other than I was crazy right after the initial, after I was out of the critical stage and came out of coma. And that was a big chunk of my life, and I'd had several X-rays before, flat plate the head, no CAT scan, MRI, they were available, but they kept checking my peripheral nervous system with electromyograms, never thinking up here there might be something. And when I couldn't walk, it was all in my head. Doctors diagnosed me with MS, diabetic, like nobody knew what to do.
One of the problems you run into with a head injury is, although you look normal, you probably speak normally for the main part, the problem really to me is I have a great deal of intelligence, and my limitation with the head injury is being capable of using it 24 hours a day when I want to, 6 hours a day when I want to. The intelligence does not get expressed on a regular basis because the brain kicks in and says, you're too tired, it's time for a nap. And I've gone through situations where I've looked for something and it's right in front of me and I can't see it.
Whenever you have problems like this, the first thing they think it is an emotional problem. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they give you drugs, and sometimes, well, in my case, they thought it was because I was the age for menopause. And my period stopped immediately, and that's one of the things that can happen for women with a head injury. They think that it's all in your head.
A week after the accident, I found out I had a head injury, but I didn't understand it for a year later. I basically thought I was going crazy, and it just kept making things worse because my memory, I lived for my memory is what got me through my life. I didn't have a good education in that, but my memory is what got me to be as old as I was with the things I could do.
Mm-hmm. After the head injury, I consciously am aware that I make mistakes pathologically on a regular basis. I misspell words. I invert numbers. There's a lot of physical problems.
My memory was a very key aspect of what I did. I mean, I dispatched a fleet of 400 vehicles. Today I would be hard-pressed to to call 40 orders, book 25 guys, and then pass the other orders to the next guy.
I did lose my nursing license. I will not be able to return. It's not really my memory that's as affected. 6 weeks in Baycrest, I don't take information in properly, and when somebody says something to me, I can't get to it. So that has been very, very, very frustrating.
His consciousness appears to be relatively alert, although he has no memory of the incident itself.
Esther Vedder's son has a brain injury. She is the information coordinator of the Head Injury Association of Toronto. Members get together twice a month. Discussion often turns to the serious problems they encounter.
I suffer from head injury that was not diagnosed, could not be diagnosed for 8 years. When I finally found out I wasn't going crazy, there was a reason that changed everything. You know, I had a chance to work on my problem.
It happens very frequently that people go undiagnosed for a few years, and but once their diagnosis is made and they understand the reason for their problems, it makes such a difference in their life, and it puts them off on a new path.
The problem with doctors is that doctors are ignorant to the problem of head injury, and most of them prefer to be ignorant because it's easier than dealing with it. It's easier than dealing with reality. Again, it goes back to the old story. A closed head injury you can't see. I went to see a neurosurgeon regarding a prior problem that had been a consistent problem from an accident in 1981. And he saw a particular person there. They ordered a diagnostic test done. And then I saw him a month after the diagnostic test. And he noted a totally different person over a 3-month period. Completely different. If it hadn't have been for that prior appointment, he would have never noticed a difference. So nothing would have been done. Things would have just stayed stagnant and gone on and on and on.
A lot of the doctors that I saw knew nothing about head injury. They weren't well informed whatsoever. Even some of the neurologists I saw still didn't believe that I had a head injury, even after 5 head injuries. And these guys are chief of some of the major hospitals in the neurology department.
I think the medical profession needs to be re-educated. They really have to have a yearning deep inside to want to know more about it. See, a lot of them, it's too easy at 5 o'clock to look at the clock, fold up the folders, put on your jacket, jump in your Jag, and go home for dinner.
I think what's happened in the past is that in the medical school, there has not been a good training for the medical doctors to learn about the milder forms of traumatic brain injury. I think they're quite familiar with when you're unconscious and you're in coma for a few days, but when you're dealing with this more milder aspect of the injury, that is where they're kind of have not been.
Several doctors have told me that you cannot have a concussion or an injury if you don't lose consciousness, which is totally false.
That's right.
My injury occurred in 1984 and went undiagnosed. I wasn't getting anywhere with my doctors. I had many doctors, nothing at all. And it took one person in the medical field, but not a doctor, compassion, caring, to say, there might be something else wrong. We're gonna dig.
I had the same thing happen. I went to one person that someone else had gone to and had he was wonderful for them. And he said, can you follow a television program? And I said, yes. And he said, you're fine, we'll get you right back to work. And he completely ignored all the other problems that I had, which were emotional, physical, cognitive. It was just...
Multitasking.
Yes.
Yeah, just a whole range of things.
Right.
A lot of people are diagnosed in the emergency rooms with a concussion. They're given a paper to go home, watch for the signs, wake you up every 2 hours. When somebody is allowed to go home in a situation like that, I think the way the government can help is to have an advocate or somebody do a follow-up. And if anything looks out of the ordinary, like this person is in the slightest not back to normal, hook it up where they can get a neuropsych test or something.
We need someone to act for us, not only a doctor, but someone who's overseeing the problems between doctor, government, insurance companies.
When I hear about the insurance company, I get very angry, and that you're always on the verge of tears when you're talking about this, because it's
But that,
it's you want nothing, but you want your life back.
The problem is that the medical community is not well trained in diagnosing the people with the injury. And the insurance companies rely on the medical diagnosis of the doctors. And if they don't have that, then the insurance companies have problems in understanding the extent of the damage, and then they have problems in processing the claim. The insurance companies are concerned, well, as it says recently in the papers and on the news, they're concerned about fraud. They sometimes see these people, sometimes they're labeled as malingers, when really that's not the situation at all.
this is one of the big problems. It's a financial game, and obviously the insurance company has a great deal to lose because it's convenient for a lot of people to say, well, I've got brain injury. Well, for the rest of us who do have brain injury, and that's really what it boils down to, it's a rough hole to try and get things legitimately.
I'm fighting with the insurance company. They're sending me for my third medical. My third time they're sending me to an orthopedic surgeon. I have a brain injury. I do not need an orthopedic surgeon. I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
But that's the adversarial policy that we have with insurance companies, and what they do is they control the victim and they victimize them even more because money is required to get therapy. And the only way that you're going to try and come to grips with a relatively good life is having the therapy to get out of pain for a while. And the problem there, again, with insurance, is that you have a 2-year limitation under the old statute to mark down any of the ailments. Well, it took them 3.5 years to find out I had brain damage.
My legs are getting worse. I have to use a cane sometimes, where I didn't have to do that before. And I feel I'm getting worse and worse because I'm not getting the right kind of treatment. Mm-hmm. And you need money for that.
Because of this accident and because of this injury, I have become a professional patient. That is my occupation at the moment. I'm not being paid for it, except for the little tiny bit that welfare does see fit to give me. And they've made me sign all kinds of papers. If and when the insurance company ever does give me anything, they want all their money back. I understand that because the people of this province and city should not be paying for me to be running and trying to get my life put back together.
Exactly. The person who's caught without $1 million settlement, which is probably what it really costs to live for the rest of your life with a head injury, has to turn to a community service. And all of a sudden, Joe taxpayer is paying the money out.
If you have the insurance dollars, you can access the help much easier. But if you are in a situation where there is limited funds and you have to rely on government funding, this is where there's a long waiting list, a long, long waiting list, and people really do suffer because of this.
I'm tired. I don't want to fight anymore. It's a combination of the lawyers, the fighting with the insurance company, and I think the insurance company's thing is to make you fight so much you either give up
You get exhausted.
or who knows how many people have gone ahead and committed suicide or attempted to because of what they put you through.
I think everyone in the group has had suicidal thoughts because of the circumstances and the fighting that they have to do, all of us.
Everyone who has a head or brain injury has problems that are difficult to deal with alone. Peer support groups offer members a chance to share their experiences and receive help and understanding.
Can't handle bright lights, can't handle a lot of noise. As a result of it, there's a festering volcano of anger within that I'm sure you can pick up on. The deeper I get into a subject regarding my own problems, my voice will tend to get louder because it's a way to try to release some of the anger. There is no other way, short of banging walls, but that doesn't get you anywhere. But doctors just don't want to seem to know more about it. It's easier to slough it under the carpet than to go back to school or sit in on meetings like we have every other week and learn from the people who are actually going through the problems.
And the nice thing about having other people to share with, such as the Head Injury Association of Toronto, is that you get reinforcement of some of the positive things that you want, because there's enough negative things in society dealing with head injury.
Almost everyone who's come here for the first time leaves in tears because it's like a door opens up and you realize no matter how much, with myself, no matter how much my neuropsych told me I wasn't going crazy, I didn't believe it until I came here and seen other people with a lot of the same problems that I'm having. And I stopped crying so much.
I've been here twice. The first time I came, I knew I belonged here. Just a feeling of utter relief. Well, I think so many things have happened to me as a result. I appreciate little things more, and I'm not as afraid or nervous because, I've gone through so much.
So the group, I guess, in a sense, sometimes makes you feel not so alone.
Right, that's it exactly.
Yeah.
I think the group basically, to me, has outlined a lot of the hidden problems that we would not normally be aware of. And it's given us coping strategies and different information on how to approach lifestyle, perhaps vocational rehab, different information along those lines.
We have brain injuries, but our intelligence has not been affected.
Is that true? Impression.
Yeah, it's I'm wondering is if these people who have had more severe injuries, who aren't capable of having the control of verbally expressing themselves anymore, how trapped that they must feel, that maybe their intelligence is still in there.
So we're really the lucky ones.
We are the lucky ones, in my opinion, because
As
we at
long-
least have a handle on who we are, who we're trying to become, and how to try and compensate for our deficiencies.
Someone has mentioned that you won't get back to 100%, but you will improve if you work at it. And the more that you try, the more more help you get, the more chance you have of making a better recovery.
It has been proven that the brain can heal itself in some areas, but it has to be immediate therapy, immediate work in
Well, there's a lot of relearning that goes on.
Yeah, but it has to be immediate. I mean, you can't, if somebody has an injury today and they start working on it tomorrow, they have more of a chance than somebody who was injured 10 years ago and they start working on it 10 years later.
If you've ever been knocked unconscious or had a severe blow to the head, in all probability you've had some form of brain damage. Get yourself in to a head injury association, whether it be Thunder Bay, whether it be St. Catharines, whether it be Toronto, North York, wherever else. Sit down, talk to other people. If you have similar problems to those other people, chances are you're a survivor of a head injury. If you don't, then obviously the impact hasn't been that dramatic on you. And God bless, you're one of the lucky ones.
It's almost like that saying is, I'm sure almost everybody's heard this expression, is that he's never been the same since he hit his head. And when you realize what is wrong with us, just talking in the group and that, you can sit back and through your lifetime realize you've met people who've had head injuries. And it's, it might be just a subtle little change in them, but they've never been the same.
If you've had an accident and feel you may need assistance or more information on head injuries, contact the Canadian Brain Injury Coalition at 204-334-0471. They're located in Winnipeg. You can also check your phone book for provincial or local head or brain injury organizations, or write to us. Our address is coming right up. That's the Disability Network this week. I'm Ming Wong. Here's our address. Disability Network, CBC, Box 500, Station A, Toronto, M5W1E6. That's Disability Network, CBC, Box 500, Station A, Toronto, M5W1E6.
This program is brought to you in part by the Royal Bank of Canada, serving Canadians for 126 years, one customer at a time.